Although she ran away from home, Blavatsky continued to use her husband's surname, and in her youth, she traveled and researched in various parts of the world to learn about different cultures, religions, and esoteric teachings. The year 1951 is very important in this respect. During a trip to London, Blavatsky met her spiritual teacher in her physical body. The person she met was a Mahatma. Mahatma means great supreme spirit in Sanskrit. According to theosophy, spiritually elevated, masterful people are called Mahatmas. They are often referred to as Mahatmas, Masters, and the Great White Brotherhood. Since Mahatmas have completed the process of reincarnation, they are known as beings who have reached their highest level, great sages. Mahatmas, who live in countries such as Tibet and India, are said to be able to be anywhere they want in their astral form, even though they live physically in these countries. One example is Gandhi, the spiritual leader of the Indian independence movement. All over the country, Gandhi is called Mahatma, the Great Spirit. Is it out of respect and love, or because he was truly a spiritual leader? We leave the interpretation to you. After meeting her mentor in London, Blavatsky was given a great task by Master Mahatma Maurya. According to the Mahatma teachings, the great task given to her is as follows. Madame Blavatsky will undergo a spiritual training in Tibet for 3 years, after which she will be allowed access to some of the divine knowledge, and then a theosophical society will be established under her leadership. The teachings of the Mahatma constitute the main principles of the society. We are getting closer and closer to the lost kingdom of Shambhala. According to the teachings of the Mahatmas, Shambhala is the last surviving city of the lost civilization of Atlantis. It is said that a mystical knowledge center responsible for the spiritual evolution of humanity is still active here, and that some people still communicate with this knowledge center today. The two great masters of the Great White Brotherhood, Mahatma Maurya and Mahatma Kuthumi, exchanged letters with British statesmen in the late 19th century, and these letters were even delivered to the British government by Madame Blavatsky herself. These letters have been on display in the British Museum in England since 1939. It has been claimed that Blavatsky acted under the patronage and guidance of the Mahatmas throughout her life from this encounter, and that she received all her knowledge from these masters. After this encounter in London, Blavatsky went to America and spent a year there. In New Orleans, she spent some time among the members of the Voodoo religion. Blavatsky then traveled to India in 1852 to meet her spiritual master. From there, she wanted to pass through Tibet, but the region was very chaotic at the time due to the Chinese occupation of Tibet. For this reason, he failed. In 1855, guided by a Tatar shaman, they managed to enter Tibet through Kashmir and Ladakh, but they could not advance very far into the interior of Tibet. Blavatsky was very impressed by the trance ability of her guide, the shaman. After this failed attempt, Madame Blavatsky returned to India and then to Europe. After spending a few years in European cities, she returns to Russia, to the land of her birth, to her relatives. As described in her autobiography, her relatives claimed that Blavatsky had psychic powers since her childhood. Her relatives also claimed that Madame Blavatsky, who returned to her country in 1858, had further developed these powers, and that she possessed some of the powers associated with mediumship at the time. Strange noises, rattling, whispering, unexplained events, and the displacement of objects were observed in the places where Blavatsky was present. Between 1867 and 1870, Madame Blavatsky returned to India and Tibet. In the 3 years she spent here, it is claimed that she was educated by the Mahatmas, who were her masters, and that she acquired her theosophical knowledge during this period. Then she returned to Europe again. Thus, he traveled around the world twice. In 1870, the ship she was traveling on sank while crossing from Greece to Egypt. Blavatsky was one of the few survivors of this accident. In 1871, she engages in important activities in Cairo. She conducts psychic experiments and practices based on the theories of Allan Kardec. Allan Kardec is the author of the Book of Mediums and the founder of experimental spiritualism. Helena founded a society called the Spiritist Society. An advertisement in a newspaper at the time reads exactly as follows: "A society of spiritists has been founded in Cairo under the direction of Madame Blavatsky, with the mediums assisting her. There will be 2 meetings a week. Only members can attend the meetings. Our aim is to be together under the roof of this society and to establish a reading room and a library on spiritualism and other fields." However, these efforts did not yield any results. Madame Blavatsky claimed that the psychics she worked with had defrauded her and closed the society. After this unsuccessful attempt, Blavatsky returned to her native Russia, then went to Paris and then to America in 1873. She made a name for herself by participating in various seances with the psychics she met. Afterwards, leaving Spiritism behind, she founded the Theosophical Society and settled in India with Henry Steele Olcott, who would later become her companion. Thus, the center of the Theosophical Society also moved to India.